Namaskaram. Let's begin with 3 chants of Om. Before every Om, we take a deep breath inside and make sure that our back is vertical. And it will be good if you can hold a chin mudra or what is known as yoga mudra or jnana mudra over your thighs, palms facing upwards, elbows relaxed, and we observe the vibrations going from the navel all the way to the tip of the nose as we utter the sound A, which itself transforms to U and then to as we keep closing the mouth half and full. So the observation will go starting from the navel upwards to the tip of the nose, and as our practices start deepening, we will observe that the range of motion is even more, starting from the Muladhara chakra all the way up to the Guru Gayatri chakra. All the 9 chakras are traversed. As beginners, we may not be able to notice this big range, so we notice only or observe only the range between the navel to the tip of the nose. When we utter that sound, we feel the vibrations in the lower portions. U, we feel the vibrations in the middle portions, and we observe the vibrations in the upper portions. Also, in terms of the lungs, you will see that you are using more of the lower lobes of the lungs for A, the middle lobes of the lungs for U, and the upper lobes of the lungs for All these, we don't need to force these thoughts upon ourselves. It's just a question of observation. Sometimes we may observe, sometimes we may not. That's not important, but we give it as much attention as we can. And whatever we notice, we just be with that attention. So let's begin, and every now and then make sure you correct your back posture, because the back has a tendency to either move forward or backward depending upon which of our aspects, the inhalation or exhalation, which is trying to dominate. So for example, if the inhalation is trying to dominate, you'll tend to go backwards, and if the exhalation is tending to dominate, you'll try to go forwards. But since we are doing both equally between arms, we are taking a inhalation, so we will have a balance, and so we can maintain our spine vertical and erect. So let's begin the chant. Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amrutangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Almost everything that we do, including this chant of Om as well as the Shanti mantra, we are essentially observing the flow of the Kundalini energy from the lower chakras to the higher chakras. When we say Asatoma Sadgamaya, we are saying that from lower truths, let us go to the higher truths. And when we are saying Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, we are saying from lower levels of knowledge, let us go to the higher levels of knowledge and wisdom. And when we are saying, because light is associated with knowledge, so the more the light, more the brightness, we are associating it with knowledge. And then we say Mrityorma Amrutangamaya, referring to the fact that our identity right now is with the body, which is mortal, which has death. From that, we want to re-identify ourselves with our true nature, which is the Atma, which means that we are immortal. So going from untruth to truth, or from darkness to light, or from mortality to immortality, all of these essentially mean the ascension of the Kundalini energy or awareness or our consciousness from the lower levels to the higher levels. So now we can try to understand the chakras a little more deeper. There are total of 14 chakras. The 7 are below the Muladhara and 7 starting from the Muladhara. The ones which are below the Muladhara is the ones in which we operate when we go to sleep, for example, deep sleep. And those are the ones where there is inertia or tamasic gunas. People think that tamasic guna is bad. There's nothing like bad or good here. It's just that it is needed for certain purposes, like I just mentioned, for deep sleep. But if we try to use it during the waking state, obviously, it's going to be harmful. So then people think that tamasic guna is bad. Tamasic guna is not bad. Without tamasic gunas, we cannot get deep sleep. So it's essential that we keep things in the right place. Papaji used to like one song very much. He used to, which is a Tamil song, in which it is said that Garuda is asked by the snake, which is around the neck of Shiva, "Are you okay? Garuda Saukyama." பரமசிவன் கழுத்தில் இருக்கும் பாம்பு கருடனை பார்த்து கேட்டது, கருடனே நீ சௌக்கியமா? அதுக்கு கருடன் சொன்னார், இருக்கும் இடத்தில் இருந்து விட்டால் எல்லாம் சௌக்கியமே. So this is a song that Papaji used to love a lot, and this is by Kannadasan, a great lyricist who was also a very spiritual person. And what it essentially means is, whatever is supposed to be in its place, if it's in its place, then there is no problem. It's only when displacement takes place or we misplace certain things, then we have a problem. Even some precious thing, let's say our phone or something, we don't find for a while, then we get a little tense, we start searching for it. So, because it needs to be with us at that point of time. So these are physical things. The same thing holds for our subtle aspects and our causal aspects as well. And subtle aspects are the where we have these qualities, 3 types of qualities: tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic. And the eventual goal is to transcend all these 3 qualities, that is mukti or moksha. But while we are embodied, that is, we are living in this physical body during our lifetime, we need to bring a balance between these and use them as and when they are required in proper proportions. And this happens to some extent automatically when we are babies. But as we grow up, we get some freedom, which we tend to misuse, especially our mind tends to misuse the freedom that it gets and therefore it starts misplacing things, and that's when you have problems. So, what are these qualities? Tamas represents inertia, laziness, lethargy, which during the waking state are undesirable qualities. But during sleep, those are the most desirable qualities. So, those are all below the Muladhara chakra. And all of our focus in this Kriya is from the Muladhara onwards. That's why the three preparatory asanas that we have, all of them are associated with the base of the spine and the hip joint in particular. Whether we do the butterfly or the rocking the baby or the cat pose, in all these three, what we are essentially doing is to strengthen the hip joint and the muscles around the hip joint, because that is where the transition takes place. And wherever transition takes place, what we call as joints, in this case the hip joint, similarly the knee joint, the ankle joint, the elbows, the wrists, the finger joints, the neck joint, all of these joints are very, very important, because they are bringing what looks like two separate things together. That's why we call it a joint. What is essentially two separate things is brought together to make us recognize, no, it is not two, it is our imagination that these are two, but they are joined. So that's the reason why joints are very important, because not only in the body, but how we are joined to our family, how our family is joined to the society, how the society is joined to the rest of the country, and then the globe, not only to humanity, but other forms of living, be it plants, trees, animals, whatever is around us, how we are exchanging life with it. That recognition starts with the bodily joints. So once we take care of the bodily joints, what are called as sandhyas, meeting points, then we start recognizing all the other joints, and then it becomes very easy for us not to consider us as an isolated individual, but something that is universal, of which we have captured a little bit and showcasing, but we still, while we are showcasing that also, we are the universal only. Just like the balloon, the air inside the balloon is still the same air only. It's just that there is a boundary to it, therefore it is thinking of it as different. Once it releases, it knows that it is the same air. But even if it doesn't know, essentially we know that what air is in the balloon is the same air that is outside us. So that recognition to come only, these joints are important. That's why the joints during different times of the day are also very important. We call Brahma Muhurta as the time between night and day. So that dawn time is separating the night and the day, and therefore that's why it is so very important. Similarly, the noon, it separates the morning from the afternoon. So it's a joint. So that's why these are very powerful times to do any kind of a spiritual sadhana, including the kriyas. We can do it during that time. Similarly, again, evening around 6 o'clock, it's a division between the afternoon and the evening or night. So typically sunrise, when the sun is right on the top, and when the sun is setting. So these three times become very, very critical, because once again they are joints. They are joining two different types of day into one. So that is essentially what is happening. Wherever we have this opportunity to recognize that we are not splintered away as small entities, but one universal thing, all these joints actually help. In the same context only, these chakras are also very important, because they are joints of the nadis. And nadis are, though they are in the physical sense mean nerves, in the Kundalini Yoga system, what we are talking about nadis are subtle nerves. That means they do not have any physical existence, but that is what helps us to elevate our mind to higher consciousness, what we call as chitta, because manas is what we were talking about as this little finger, which tends to have a lot of different kinds of emotions, which are all of which have opposites. In other words, if you have love, you have hate. If you have anger, you have compassion, and so on and so forth. So all emotions typically have opposites, and anything which is having opposites tends to move you away from that unison, that is unity. And unity is only possible at our ultimate level, that is our bliss and our life energy. When we say ultimate level, it's not something that we are going to achieve in the future. We are already that. That recognition that we are that has to come more and more consciously. Now we know it as a theoretical knowledge. We know it by understanding all the things that we have talked in the previous sessions. We know, yes, we are that, but we are not acting like that. We are acting like these. Yes, it's okay to bring these because these are tools and act, but even when we are acting with the body, mind, and intellect, if we keep an awareness that we are the universal soul, which is the same soul that is occupying every other living being, not only on this planet but the entire universe, then that oneness, that belongingness, that everything and everybody belongs to us and we belong to everything and everybody, not in the sense of a body but in the sense of our true nature. So that oneness is what is brought together by almost all the spiritual sadhanas. If you take, essentially what you are doing is you're starting from separate and then bringing together and joining and making it one. But the ultimate goal is to recognize our universality and to bring that concept or reality to fruition. We have to keep on doing it at various levels. So the exercises are also for joints in the physical exercises. The mental exercises are for the chakras, and the intellectual exercises are also to, when you're solving a particular problem, you have some knowledge, you have some problem, you're trying to bring that knowledge and problem together so that it can create a solution for the problem. So again, it's a joint. It's a joint between the knowledge that you have acquired and the problem that you're applying that knowledge to. So when you start applying, then the problem dissolves and becomes a solution. So that's what the chakras essentially mean. So the Muladhara chakra is a very important chakra amongst all the 9 that we have. There are transition chakras. Like Muladhara, it's dividing between the 7 tamasic gunas below and the rajasic gunas on the top. What are the rajasic gunas? They are essentially our passion. Passion, again, if it becomes too much and is applied where it is not supposed to be applied, then what it happens, it becomes aggression. It becomes anger. It becomes too much of violent behavior, both from the physical and the emotional level. So that doesn't mean that Rajasic gunas are bad. Passion is good. Without passion, we cannot get anything done in this whole world. That passion is very, very important, being devoted to whatever we do. That's what is bhakti also, for that matter. So all of that is important, but you should know where the limits are, what the balance is. So that's essentially what we are trying to do. Similarly, the first 3 chakras are all associated with Rajas: Muladhara, Swadhisthana, and Manipura. We'll go into each one of them in detail. But then the Manipura is very, very significant because now again there is a division. The next one is going to be Anahata, Vishuddhi, and the Agnya chakra. So the first 3 end with Manipura. So it's a transitional chakra. But the next one begins at Anahata. In that sense, the Anahata is also very significant because it's the starting of the Sattvic gunas. What are the Sattvic gunas? It's essentially peace and purity. So you don't even have passion. So first of all, you transcend lethargy or inertia, laziness. Then you come to passion so that you can do some activity, which you can do only during the waking state. Then you transcend beyond that to a state of purity and state of peace, where you can just sit and meditate. You can sit in your stillness and enjoy your own interiority. So that particular state is essentially sattva. But it's possible to do action also while being sattvic. So because you will have certain traces of tamas and rajas, even though you have transcended and come here. What it essentially means is that you have more of sattva compared to rajas and tamas. And as you keep going here, even more sattva, further lesser rajas and further lesser tamas. And here Sattva is maximum. And then once you go beyond that, you are transcending sattva also, so that you are in a state of beyond all qualities. And that's essentially you recognize your oneness with God. What we have been talking about theoretically as Aham Brahmasmi, I am God. You don't realize that until you have transcended all the three gunas and come to the Sahasrara, the Matrupitru Chakra, and the Guru Gayatri Chakra. So, what each one of these means is our own qualities actually. For example, Mooladhara means our stability, means our patience, means our wisdom, means our ability to troubleshoot. Whatever troubles comes our way, we'll not become a crybaby going to everybody asking what's help for. In the sense that there are lots of things that we can do it ourselves. So where we cannot do beyond a certain limit in a physical work, or it's something that is much more massive, yes, we need to do teamwork. But there's so many things for which we tend to lose our balance and think that we have to get outside help. It's not necessary beyond a certain threshold, yet it is necessary. But until that time, there is a lot that we can do ourselves. And to enhance that capability of how much we can do, how we can enhance that threshold, how much more we can do by ourselves. So that is essentially what the Mooladhara shows, because it's Ganesha, and it essentially means the ability to have a clarity of perception which leads to leadership. Isha means leadership, Gana means overall categories. So whatever the different divisions that we might have, the ability to look through all that and lord over it, that is Ganesha. And is also called Vigna Vinayaka, which means that you are removing all the vignas or obstacles that are coming in the path. That means you are a troubleshooter. So you are able to self troubleshoot. So you are able to solve your own problems. So this is what we learn by meditating on the Mooladhara, and that is automatically happening when we are doing those first three asanas of what we call as the Patangasana or Titli Asana, butterfly pose, the cradling rock a baby, Shishupalasana, and then when we are doing the cat pose, so which is to bring a balance between the Ida and Pingala, which is going to take the energy from there. But the first two, especially in particular, the focus is on the base of the spine. We keep observing what is happening at the base of the spine as we do these. I'm saying three because you do 2 minutes each for the Patangasana, for the left leg Shishupalasana and right leg Shishupalasana. So total of 2 plus 2 plus 2, 3 parts are there in it. All three of them, you are essentially focusing on that Mooladhara chakra, and as we start perfecting it, we become more of Ganesha. We recognize that we are Ganesha. Whatever Ganesha we imagine can do, we are able to do it ourselves, because that whole concept of Ganesha that we have is essentially our own quality in a perfected sense we are having. When we have perfect troubleshooting capability, perfect knowledge, we have perfect ability to overcome any kinds of obstacles. All of these are essentially, and leadership capabilities, all these are essentially the Mooladhara qualities. And as they become more and more perfect, we become more and more of a Ganesha. Next, we come to the Swadhisthana chakra, which is the chakra of Muruga. So whatever qualities you imagine of Muruga, because our ancestors had this beautiful way of conveying things through stories, through characters, so that one, we will remember for a much longer time. If we are told just dry theory, it's very easy to forget after some time. While listening, it might look like everything is obvious, but then slowly we'll start forgetting. But once we hear it in the form of a story, hear it in form of some characters, especially as children, then we tend to keep it for a longer period of time. But in that, they have hidden so many secrets, and unless and until we unravel those secrets, it will remain a story. It's as good as any other novel that you're reading or a movie that you're watching. It may be entertaining, but it may not be useful to you. So we have to understand that this Muruga concept is essentially, we say he is having 6 phases, which means 12 eyes, which essentially means the ability to perceive much more than what our own two eyes can perceive. So the ability to perceive the interiority, the intuition, is what is shown by so many eyes. That fact that only when we are able to see things with a clarity, the way they are, instead of assuming, imagining things, then we will be able to have valor, courage, confidence. Instead of that, without having this clarity, many people just go, be confident, be confident. What happens is that those kinds of people, they don't see things as they are, and still they are confident. It's like crossing the road without looking left and right. I'm confident about crossing the road, I will cross the road. But if you have seen left and you have seen right, no vehicle is coming, and then you're walking, that is real confidence. That is clarity based confidence. So that is what Muruga stands for. So as we keep meditating on the Swadhisthana chakra and take our meditation more and more deeper, we will see that, in fact, when once you do those asanas, including the cat pose, already the energy has started flowing upwards from the Muladhara chakra. It has already reached the Swadhisthana and the Manipura chakras. So you will feel that better clarity of things. When you look at certain things, you look at it from a totally different perspective than what you were looking at earlier. You will see that what you were thinking as a problem is a challenge, actually, is an opportunity, actually, to make yourself grow, to make others around you grow. So that's what being or operating from the Swadhisthana actually means. Then once you go beyond that, so you've got valor, courage and confidence based on clarity, based on proper intuitive perception. Next, you come to the Manipura chakra. So this Swadhisthana is an inch below the navel. The Manipura is much closer to the navel. Depending on the individual's physical construction, it could be slightly below the navel or slightly above the navel. But for all practical purposes, you can think of it as a navel chakra. So right behind the navel, you can think of it. That is the Manipuraka chakra, the chakra of Manikanta or Swami Sharanamayappa, Dharma Shastra. Dharma means duty. So our consciousness to do our duty. We say somebody is duty conscious. Like for example, Ratan is duty conscious. What it means is that the person is true to whatever he is supposed to be done. He is doing it in a proper way. So that duty consciousness is what is called as dharma, and dharma shastra is somebody who stabilizes in that duty. So anybody who is doing whatever is supposed to be done, as well as at the right time, because if you do the things but you do it late or you do it too early, then maybe its value is lost. So doing what is your duty and doing it at the right time, all of these happen when you are starting to operate from the Manipuraka chakra. And the more and more you perfect your duty consciousness, you become like Ayyappa. So Ayyappa is just a concept. It's a concept to make us see that how we are supposed to be as a duty conscious person. So we tend to idealize these and idolize these, make idols out of it, and then they just remain away from us. We think we have to pray to it and it is some superior power. No, that superior power is within us. It is our potential, just that we have not realized that potential. Unless and until we realize that potential, yes, it is just something that we cannot just keep dreaming about. But slowly, as we work through this kriya, we do this kriya on a regular basis, every morning and evening, we start practicing it the way it is supposed to be done. All of these start happening automatically, and you will start observing these things are happening. So that is essentially operating from the Manipura chakra. Next, we come to the Anahata chakra. So the first three are, as I said, Rajasic and associated with the sons of Shiva, which are Ganesha, Muruga, and Ayyappa. Now we are talking about the Shakti, all the women power. That is Lakshmi, Saraswati, and Parvati. So Lakshmi is essentially our targeting energy, and it's something that is targeting our ultimate goal, Narayana. That's why we say Lakshmi Narayana. So this Anahata chakra, Anahata itself means unstruck. That means we have always been striking to get things done. now we are going beyond that to recognize that these things which are striking can actually cooperate and collaborate instead of competing with each other. So that's where love begins. So the emotion of love, compassion, motherly nature, all of these start happening because it's the feminine which is getting more and more. Already in this also there is a feminine. With Ganesha there is the Siddhi and Buddhi that we talked about. With Muruga there is the Valli Devayana we talked about. With Ayyappa there is the Mallika Purathamman and Mohini Avataram. All these things that we talk about. But and also the Ida Nadi is coming from there, and the Pingala Nadi is coming. The Ida being on the left side is the feminine, and Pingala on the right side is the masculine. So there is energy, but it is more dominant in a masculine sense. That's why we say usually we associate this quality of aggression with masculine nature. It doesn't mean only men are aggressive, women are not aggressive. It has nothing to do with that. All of us, irrespective of our physical bodily gender, we have these traits, the masculine and feminine traits, and we need to balance them appropriately. Just like we were saying, how to use the gunas, tamasic gunas, we use more in sleep. Instead, if we use it more in waking state, then obviously things are going to get delayed. We will keep on postponing our work, etc. So that is essentially what's happening. Similarly, if you take the Rajasic gunas and operate them during sleep, then what it means, so much of activity of the mind or the body even sometimes that you cannot even sleep. So it's a question of getting all of these qualities that you have in the right place. Similarly, the masculine and feminine also. So now when we have come to the Anahata, more of the feminine nature starts getting activated, and this is essentially gives you a lot of peace, because when you are in love you're so peaceful. When you are in compassion, you are so pure, you feel that purity of heart, because compassionate people, they just don't see any difference, no discrimination. They are just outgoing and giving to people whatever they can and whatever the others need. So that's essentially what is cultivated as we come to the Anahata. And then we go to Vishuddhi Chakra, which is again another very beautiful feminine quality of Saraswati, which is about art, about creativity, about understanding the basic aspects of knowledge and things like that. So Saraswati, and associated with it is Brahma, the creator. Because without the power of Saraswati, Brahma cannot do anything. Saraswati is the creative power, and Brahma is the creation that comes out of it. The creator uses the creative power to create. Similarly, here with the compassion and love, what we are doing already, whatever is created, that we are trying to sustain, preserve, maintain that. It might need certain repair every now and then, whatever we have created. It could be things, it could be human beings that we have given birth to, whoever it is. It's essentially preserving them and facilitating their growth. So that's basically what is happening here. And here we are creating new things. So then we go on to the Agnya. So this is the Vishuddhi Chakra. Now we go on to the Agnya Chakra. In the Agnya Chakra, it is Parvati kind of energy, which is essentially the ability to dissolve. So whatever we have created, we have preserved to a certain extent. Now its time has come to be dissolved, to recreate something totally new out of it. So it's like the clay. If it is still wet, we can make certain things. Again, we can remove that, make something else. Or you can think of it as the Lego building blocks. We have made something very beautiful, but we don't keep it forever like that. We just remove it after a while, and we want to recreate something else, even more challenging, even more beautiful, even more useful maybe. So this is the essence of the dissolution that you do at the Agnya Chakra. And this is where the next levels of your Kriya are essentially taking you to. After you have done all the preparatory practices, then you have done the Aum chanting, and before that you have done the Kriya, the Sukha Kriya, right? The Sukha Kriya and the chanting of the Aum. So all of these have brought your energy slowly, the Kundalini energy, your spiritual energy, all the way up to the Agnya Chakra. So now already during the Sukha Kriya also you're focusing slightly on the in between your eyebrows, and now you're tilting your head backwards. So your focus is more and more on the Agnya Chakra. So that activates your pituitary gland and your pineal gland even in your physical body. So actually even physically you can observe a lot of improvement in your health, because whatever happens at the higher vertical positions gets trickled down through gravity to the lower portions as well. So any physical issues that you have with the rest of the body, once you have risen your Kundalini energy up to this, automatically many of those physical problems also start getting solved. In other words, what is happening is your immune system is being strengthened. Your own cells' capabilities to fight back against intrusions of viruses or whatever, or any inner issues that are being caused, cardiovascular or whatever they might be, respiratory, etc. All of that requires certain kind of teamwork between our various systems, and within the systems the various organs, and within those organs the various cells that make up, they all have to cooperate like a team and perform their jobs appropriately, without stepping on each other's toes. And most of the time that happens in many of the systems involuntarily, but certain things require to be done voluntarily. And for them to operate either involuntarily or voluntarily, certain chemical balance is required within the body, and that chemical balance gets disrupted because of our food habits or our lifestyles and things like that. But if we have no way to go out of those kinds of lifestyles or those kinds of food habits, no problem. We have to train our body to take care of whatever kind of lifestyles that we need to be in, to be able to handle that. So that is possible only when the endocrine system releases the appropriate amount of the hormones at the whenever it is required, and the pituitary and the pineal play a very, very critical role in that. But that is only a very small portion of the story of bringing our attention to the Agnya Chakra, because far more happens at the subtle level, that is in our mind, in our intellect. So these two are going to be drastically affected, because this is very close to the brain as well. So the left half of the brain and the right half of the brain. So what happened is the Ida Nadi has gone, this is the feminine Nadi, is gone, or Chandra Nadi also we call it. It goes here, and at the Agnya it shifts, it crosses over and goes to the right brain. So that's why the right brain activities are more artistic in nature. It's more to do with feminine kinds of qualities. Similarly, the Pingala Nadi, or what we call as the Surya Nadi, we say Surya Nadi because it's kind of aggressive like the sun. That is the masculine energy, whereas the feminine energy is like the moon, very loving and very cool. So here this hot energy of the masculinity is coming through this, the Pingala, and here again, just like this went this way, this is crossing over and going to this side. So that's why we say the left hemisphere of the brain is more to do with analytical abilities, the reasoning and things like that, more of science. This is more of arts. So it's not possible to exactly fully differentiate like that, but a majority of the art related activities are happening over here, and the majority of the science related activities are happening out here. So that's why when the dhyana is done on the Agnya, it's very good for students also, for people who are into intellectual kinds of work. So already we said that the physical body is improved, the health is improved because the immune system is improved. The mind is improved because now there is a balance between the masculine and feminine, and also it's a pure sattvic energy. Already sattvic started in the Anahata itself. It became even more sattvic at the Vishuddhi, and the ultimate sattvic level at this. So absolute peace and absolute purity is there, so the mind is taken care of. So no more emotions which kind of tend to bother you. All those botherations in the emotional structure tend to disappear automatically. And similarly, because it's so close to the brain, the intellectual prowess is also enhanced quite a bit. But the far greater thing is happening at the causal body. Already we talked about the physical body, which is what we see in the mirror, that particular body, the image of that we see in the mirror. And next is the subtle body, which is your mind and intellect, which is the bigger balloon. It can become bigger or smaller depending upon how much of emotions and thoughts you have at any point of time. So it's essentially a balloon which is centered within us, but keeps changing its size every now and then depending upon what kind of mental patterns we are going through. The next level is beyond that, is essentially we are getting into the life energy. So that's what we talked about earlier, and there at the Sahasrara, and that's what we get into. You will be introduced in your Sunday class when you are initiated. You will see that you're able to take that further beyond all these three gunas. So that's a huge drastic change, because whatever is happening so far was just going from one type of guna to another type of guna to another type of guna, and that guna itself becoming more and more. But now you're going beyond the gunas, going beyond the qualities to recognize who you truly are. You're trying to recognize that your life energy, and even beyond the life energy, or the Atman self, or the Brahman itself. So that no point in talking about. It's something to be experienced. It's something to be totally surrendered to, and with your involvement, you will see that once you have brought here Mother Parvati, she cannot stay away from her husband Shiva. That's why this concept of Ardhanarishwara, that they are so much loving to each other, that even in image, at least in the physical sense also, they are joined. So it is just to symbolize the fact that there's no more masculine and feminine separately. They have completely joined together, because we are born beyond the qualities. Only as long as the qualities of tamas, rajas, and sattva exist, that is inertia, passion, and purity, as long as these qualities exist, then yes, there is a distinction between what is masculine and what is feminine. Now, because it's still physical, and physical has boundaries. Now we have gone beyond boundaries, there's no physicality, and we recognize our true nature. That doesn't mean the physicality doesn't exist. It exists, but it doesn't have as much importance. And when we are operating out of that, all that we do with the body also becomes so very beautiful. All that we do with our mind becomes even more beautiful. What we do with our intellect becomes so useful to everybody, and more and more people than what it used to be earlier. So that is basically what we are trying to do. It's a kind of continuing the evolutionary process that we were a single cell amoeba, we were plants, trees, then we became different kinds of animals, starting from a fish to amphibians to avians, and then mammals, and then amongst mammals, the most evolved form of the human, and then within the human, now we are opening up our energies to become going beyond the qualities, beyond rajas, beyond sattva, and to the trigunatita state. And there, though there are lots of things we can talk about, but it's better experience than to be talked about. So I hope that kind of clarifies the concept of the chakras. Okay, so then again, once again, we will conclude with three chants of Om. Sahana bhavatu सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विना वधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः।